Hi creative friends, this is Soraya and thank you so much for being here. So I allowed this to completely dry, and before I turned on my camera, like actually a few hours ago, I did come in and use my rollerball pen and I did some writing, and then I did another very watery wash over top of this. So I'm gonna bring it up closer just so you can see. The writing is unintelligible, but it still gives you enough interest and line and texture, and it just makes the background interesting without it being too distracting. And I'm still gonna go in here, I'm gonna write some more, I'm gonna put another layer, and I probably do this maybe 2 or 3 times. Now there have been a couple of other portraits where I just did one layer, like I did a pencil. Let me see here. So for this one here, I just used a pencil and I just did one layer and then I put a wash over top of it. So, you know, play around with it, and you don't have to do like it exactly the way I'm showing you. Like you can modify it, you can experiment, you can see what works with your visual language. And years ago, I took a class where the teacher talked about painting as being a lot of A, push and pull, and B, decision making. And at the time I didn't quite understand it, but the more I paint and the more I go along on my art journey, the more I see that those are two fundamental truths. So what I mean by that is the push and pull. So as you can see, I'm trying to push things into the background, and I'm also trying to pull things forward. So I'll give you an example. So the bridge of the nose and the forehead, and like in my last video I explained, like just take your fingers and just go over your entire face and see the parts that recede and then the parts that protrude. And the parts that recede, those are going to be like, you're going to want to use your darker values, and not only darker values but also more neutralized or cooler values. And then the parts that protrude, so that would be like, say, your forehead, your cheekbones, the part that is underneath the eye socket, so like right over here, and you know, the bridge of the nose, a part of the chin. Like you just run your fingers all along your face, and it's quite handy that we have our face available to kind of experiment with, and then just kind of use it to guide you. So so what I'm gonna do is I am basically just going to pull things forward and push things back. And the other thing about making decisions, that part is true as well. It's just like one decision after another, and each decision is going to determine the next decision. So just say that you know, I had a plain background, like I didn't have all this writing. Well, that's going to change the entire like it's going to change the whole piece, because everything in your painting is kind of like a symphony in terms of music. It's like every piece works together, and that's it, regardless of whether you're doing a portrait, whether you're doing an abstract, a landscape, whether you're working in your art journal, like whatever it is, like every part of the painting works with the next part. Like nothing happens in isolation. So basically all I'm doing with this particular segment of the video is I'm just pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling. And because this is a mixed media portrait and I want to explore like different ways I can use mixed media to build up my portrait, just say I want something to come out, I could just use my dictionary pages. So what I'm learning even in real time is that my collage is really handy, not only to build up layers and tell stories, but also to provide me with like the lighter values. And if you use a very dark colored collage, you can actually use it to recede your painting as well. But because I put the ink, you know, my really dark value with the ultramarine blue, because I put that on the page and I'm using that as my dark values, I'm not going to use the collage for my dark values, but you can absolutely do that. And I also wanted to bring this up closer here because in my last segment, this tea bag, it scrunched up and it was still wet, but it's completely dry now. And just look at that beautiful, delicious texture. I just love it, you guys. I love tea bags for just so many reasons. So I'm just gonna start building up like the hair and, you know, just kind of try to, like I said, just push and pull, push and pull. And that's basically what this, the part of the process is all about. It's about decision making and push and pull. And I was also asked, like, you know, how long does it take for me to paint each portrait? And honestly, you guys, not that long. I think the fact that I'm putting the ink down in the beginning, and you guys, it does not have to be ink at all. I just happen to have some calligraphy ink that I wanted to use up. I would suggest using a dark value. So I use either this ink, it's called ink. It's actually like a comparable to a Payne's gray. It's very dark. It reads as black, but it's like a Payne's gray. And I also use my ultramarine blue. So you can use like a paint. Prussian blue is great. This here is calligraphy ink. And it's in a dark blue. It's gorgeous. So I tend to use that in the beginning. And so I think it just gives me so much energy, so much moodiness and texture and depth that it honestly doesn't take me that long to do these portraits. And I do work in increments because I'm putting a lot of layers and I want them all to dry. And I mentioned that in my last video as well. So I kind of go, oh, you know, I'm going to be cleaning up the kitchen. So I'll just come in here and do a layer and then go and do what I'm going to do. And then I come back, you know, you can set a timer. And I just find that that works best for me. Generally though, when I work in my art journals, I can sit down and work for like 3 hours at a stretch. But when I'm doing these particular portraits, because there's so many layers and I want the layers to dry naturally, you can also put them outside, like in the sun. That would work too. But generally, you know, I work in increments. So I can do like 2 or 3 of these portraits a day if I just solely focused on these portraits. But I also mentioned this in another video that I like to kind of take a little bit of a break. Like I don't want to do the 100-day project like every single day, because for me, just the way I kind of learn and work, I want the lessons to kind of have a few days to kind of percolate and for me to make sense of it. So like I might work on, you know, 2 portraits today, but then I won't, you know, I won't paint for a couple of days. These portraits, I'm talking about the 100-day project. So all I'm doing is I'm just like, you know, building up my facial features now, and it's still going to be a lot of push and pull, push and pull. I'm pushing things back, I'm pulling things forward, and try to look at it. That's a great kind of a visual. So everything that protrudes out of your face, when you run your finger along your whole entire face, everything that protrudes is going to be, you're pulling it out of the page. And those are going to be your lighter values. Everything that recedes in your face, so say like your eye socket, you know, your temples, like that part that meets your hairline, the part like under your lip, your lower lip, all of those parts that go in, you're going to be pushing it. And then you're going to be using a darker value. You're going to be using more kind of neutral or cooler colors, because the hot, warm colors push forward and the cool, neutral colors recede. So those are just little tricks that you can kind of use. So basically, you guys, I laid some paints on my palette. I just put a cad yellow deep and a pink, but I want to neutralize it. Like I don't want it to be like super vibrant. So I'm going to put it down here now just to add some color, but I am going to neutralize it at some point because it's just the like the parameters I set for myself. I'm just trying to challenge myself because I'm so easy to reach for the hot colors, and you know, I'm just trying to challenge myself is what I'm doing. And then when I do go back to using my hot colors, it's going to be like, I'm going to be so excited about it. So the goal with me using neutrals and cooler colors is not for me to stop using my warm hot colors, but it's going to give me a depth and an appreciation for the warm colors, but it's just going to expand my visual language. So the way I look at it is that every challenge I set for myself, it just helps me in the long run. You know, it doesn't have to mean that, oh, well, now I'm only going to use cool colors. No, that's not why I'm doing it. I mean, if that's where your path leads you to, then that's totally, you know, that's fine. But I just look at it like, hey, it's just strengthening my visual language. Okay, so as you can see, all I'm doing is I'm just like pushing and pulling. I'm pushing and pulling. I'm pushing and pulling. I'm adding a little bit of color here, but I'm going to neutralize these colors here. And I can go in and I can add like some collage on the lips, because I'm just building things up. Like even what you see now, it, you know, it may all get, not all, but most of it, it might get pushed under, you know, like pushed under more collage or, you know, paint or whatever. But see, so this is the, like, if I've run my cheek, if I run my hands, my fingers on my face over here, I'm seeing what part is going to recede, what part's gonna get pushed, be pushed back. And you can use this with any type of painting you're doing, you guys. You can use this with still lifes, you can use this with landscapes. Like, so just say you were doing a landscape, for instance, you know, it's the same principle. The things in the background are going to be of a darker color. Generally, they're going to be more neutralized. The things that are in the front are going to be of a brighter color. They're going to be read as warmer. So those are just little tricks you can use to convey like things that you are pushing back and things you're pulling forward. And somebody asked me, because I asked some, you know, I said, hey, if anybody wants me to do a still life, and somebody had replied in the affirmative. So I am going to do a still life, and it's pretty much following the exact same thing where I put down the ink and then I build up my my layers. And when you work like this, you guys, it just builds up such beautiful paint quality. And you can like put oil pastels. I mean, you can really, because it's mixed media, you can just put anything on here. And so I hope you can see how I'm building up not only my face, but the facial features. And, you know, I might leave it for a couple of hours and come back to it and be like, oh my God, I really don't like it. And then I can go in, add more collage, add dictionary pages, add, you know, my tea bags, whatever. And I want to get some of that beautiful tea bag texture there. So what I would urge you guys to do is to, like, the techniques that I share, like, sure, if you want to just, you know, use the technique once or twice or 3 times even, and then just start experimenting and doing what you like to do according to your own visual language. So modify it a little bit, you know. So maybe you don't want to use tea bags. Maybe there's another textured collage you can use. You know, you can use junk mail, you can use handmade papers. There's tons of things. I just happen to really love the tea bags. You know, so just, yeah, do it a few times to kind of, you know, like, just try it out and then modify it. Or you can keep it as is. And so now I can see that the lips are uneven here. They're not really lined up properly. Well, they kind of are. Let me see here. It's hard for me to tell. Okay, I think they're a little bit off. So you guys, because this is mixed media, I mean, you really have so much freedom. And then I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna use a wash like so over the writing. So you guys, I know this still looks like a big mess and it's okay. Like, see over here, like this is looking very kind of awkward, but it's okay because basically all I'm doing is pushing and pulling, pushing and pulling. And basically I am going to, see, I'm going to like kind of even a little bit of this out. I'm gonna allow some of the collage to show through. And basically, it's just a matter of me applying layers and pushing things back, pulling things forward. That was a really helpful visual when I took that class, because every time I get stuck, I'm like, okay, push and pull, push and pull. And it just makes a lot of sense once you start kind of getting it in your head. And I'm gonna drop some of this ink like right into that. And then I'm gonna allow it to completely dry on its own. So you guys, I don't know if, I'm probably gonna, because like this is kind of a tedious process, it really is, because of the way I work. So I might post like 2 videos a day, just so like if you're following along, you don't have to wait a whole day, because I do work in shorter periods of time. So if that is helpful, let me know. Like I don't want to like like inundate people with videos, although like you don't have to watch it. You can always like just watch it at your own pace. But I don't know if it would help somebody out there if I like post a couple of videos a day when I'm doing these portraits, because like I said, I do tend to work in increments. Anyways, you guys, if you watch all the way to the end, thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.